Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this video presentation from Synchronicity TV. We'll continue with the emotional dimension. And this is the beginning of a 3-part series about some experiences that I had in India. I've now returned, and the theme is Alive in India. And it relates to the emotional dimension because the level of feeling in experience was intense on so many levels in relation to life and death. And that's the theme that I would like to explore with you in this series in relation to my experience in Mumbai. So I went to Mumbai this year at the end of September, and I was there 3.5 months total. And as it turned out, the experience in India, I'm looking at 3 distinct periods there. And in this one, we want to go through the beginning, and I'm not going to go through the entire experience of those first 6 weeks, but around an aspect of that I would like to share with you. And that has to do with life and death. Obviously, we all know what happened in Mumbai on 26/11. Terrorists stormed the city, and many innocent lives were lost, including the life of my dear husband, Alan, and daughter, Naomi. So naturally, going to a place where my dear family members and closest companions lost their lives brought up quite a bit of emotion for me. And I was staying in the very place at the Trident Hotel where the terrorists attacked. They had been living in the Oberoi Hotel at the time, which is just connected to Trident. So in the course of that, I was constantly aware of that experience and had an opportunity to talk to many staff members. And the first thing that struck me is the miracles that occurred in regard to life and death, the extraordinary experience that was there during the time of the terrorist attacks. There were stories where people were at the front desk at Trident, on duty, right at that time, and this person happened to be a smoker. And he said, I get off at 10:30, so at 9:45, I don't take a break for a smoke. But that night, I decided to go have a smoke. And I decided I had to go have a smoke. And so he left the front desk. 15 seconds later, and this is on video camera with timing, so that's why he knows. 15 seconds after he departed, the terrorists stormed in. So he did not get shot. And everybody else who was at the front desk that night did in fact get shot and killed. So that's very amazing to me. So I spoke to people whose lives were saved by seconds. I spoke to people whose shifts changed, people whose close friends normally did not work at night, but that day called in and changed their shifts, and therefore ended up getting killed. Also the opposite, changed their shifts for whatever reason or another, and therefore they weren't there. So that was at play there. On one hand, my husband and daughter, they lost their lives there. On the other hand, the last 2 weeks of their lives were spent there. What was that like? What was the quality of that life like? And that's what I really opened to in Mumbai and where I had to experience for myself. I knew they were having the time of their lives. What was that like for them? What was that like to walk the streets of Mumbai and have some of those experiences? What was it like to be in the Oberoi Hotel and live that lifestyle, interact with those staff members? I had to know. And so on one hand, there's this oscillation going on of knowing that death happened. And with death, of course, there's a lot of emotions associated with that because it's an experience of loss. And with loss comes great sadness, great grief. Life as I knew it was no more. So it's all erased. And then all of the emotions that go along with that. On the other hand, what about focusing on what their life was like? And this is a brand new experience for me of being in Mumbai. What's that like? So new experiences are more intensified life experiences because they're new. And I found myself much more wakeful within that experience. So ironically, in those first 6 weeks, what struck me was, my God, I'm more alive here than I have ever felt in my life. As raw as the experience was, because it was India and everything else that goes along with India, in fact, that is so extraordinary within the ordinary. So that's a whole nother video series in itself. But here I was, alone for the most part, experiencing life as I had never known it or experienced it before. Knowing that this is, in fact, where Alan and Naomi spent their last 2 weeks. So you can imagine every moment was so rich. Every moment I never fell asleep, never took it for granted. Which I can't say is always the case, even in a place like Synchronicity, where it's also quite wakeful. It's designed to keep us wakeful moment to moment. But I must say it was like 100 times that in Mumbai because of the context of the terrorist attacks and my relationship to two who spent the last 2 weeks of their life there. So the first main point in this video is what Master Charles said about all of this. Death follows birth. Life is eternal. Life is eternal. How awake are we within that? How open, how alive are we within that eternal life? And that was my exploration as I stepped into the Mumbai experience. A further continuation of that will be the experience of Benares, which was a completely other kind of perspective on life and death that will culminate in the return to Mumbai in those last 6 weeks where I was able to, at the very end, go into the restaurant and sit at that table and have a meal there. But it took Benares to get me to that point. So the first point here, before we meet again next month, to keep this in mind. Life is eternal. How alive are you in any moment, which means how much are you experiencing in any moment? What is the depth of your experience in any moment? The depth of it will be directly related to how wakeful you are within that moment. And that's how in touch with the feelings, beyond feelings, love. What experience of love are you having is the experience of life that you're having in that moment. That's what I experienced in the first chapter of Mumbai. So for now, enjoy life in every moment, and we'll meet again next month to continue. Thank you.